All right, I'd like to read a story for you that was collected by Peter Christian Asbjørnsen and Jørgen Moa. This was in the mid 1800s. They were collecting tales throughout Norway and publishing these as Norska Folkeeventyr. This particular tale is Kvanten som står og maler på hausens bunn, or the mill that grinds at the bottom of the sea. A long, long time ago, there were two brothers, one rich and the other poor. When Christmas Eve arrived, the poor brother hadn't a crumb of bread nor any meat. So he went to his brother and begged in the name of God for a little Christmas food. Now, this wasn't the first time that the rich brother had to help him, and he wasn't particularly happy about it this time either. "If you'll do what I ask, then I'll give you this entire ham," said the rich brother. Well, the poor brother quickly promised to do this and thanked him. "Here you go. Now go straight to hell," yelled the rich brother while tossing him the ham. "Yes, well, I better keep my promise," said the poor brother. So he took the ham and he set off. He walked and he walked the entire day until finally at twilight he found himself at a place with all the lights still on. "Should check here," he thought to himself. And out in the woodshed, he saw an old man with a long white beard who was chopping wood for Christmas. "Good evening," said the man with the ham. "And a good evening to you. Where are you going so late?" asked the old man. "I guess I'm on my way to hell if this is the right path," answered the poor man. "Yes, you've come the right way. This is it," said the old man. "When you go inside, everyone will want to purchase your ham because meat is a rare food in hell. However, you should refuse to sell it unless you can trade it for the large hand mill that's sitting behind the door. When you come back, I'll teach you how to stop the mill. It's quite useful for a variety of things." So the man with the ham thanked him for the good advice and knocked on the devil's door. When he came inside, it was just as the old man said. All the devils, both large and small, crowded around him like ants in a field, each trying to outbid the other for the ham. "Well, my wife and I were supposed to have this for our Christmas dinner, but since you're so eager to have it, I'll go ahead and give it to you," said the man. "However, if I sell it, I want that hand mill that's standing behind the door over there." Well, the devil was reluctant to give that away. He haggled and he quibbled, but the man stood firm, and the devil had to trade the mill. When the man came back outside, he asked the old woodchopper how to stop the mill, and once he learned that, he thanked the man and set off for home as fast as he could. However, he didn't arrive home until after the clock struck midnight on Christmas Eve. "And where in the world have you been?" asked his wife. "I've been sitting here for hours and hours, anxiously waiting for you without so much as two sticks to put under our pot of Christmas porridge." "Oh, I wasn't able to arrive any earlier. I had things to fetch and a long way to travel as well. But you need to see this," said the man. He sat the mill on the table and commanded it to mill candles, and then a tablecloth, and then food, ale, and everything needed for a good Christmas feast. Everything that he asked for came out of the mill. The woman crossed herself several times and wanted to know where her husband got this mill, but he wouldn't say. "It doesn't matter where I got it from," said the man. "You can see that the mill is good and it certainly won't rust." So he continued milling food and drink and every good thing all throughout Christmas. By the third day of Christmas, he invited all his friends to a large feast. When the rich brother saw everything at this banquet, he became indignant, angry. He never believed his brother was worthy of any success. On Christmas Eve, he was so desperate that he came to me begging for food in the name of God, and now he holds a feast as if he were both a count and a king, he told everyone. "Where in the depths of hell have you gotten this wealth?" he asked his brother. "Well, behind the door," replied the brother with the mill. He didn't want to explain the details to his brother. However, that night, after he'd had some drinks, he couldn't contain himself, and he brought the mill out. "Now you can see what's brought me all this wealth," he said. And then he had the hand mill grind out one thing after another. And when the brother saw this, he simply had to have that mill. Eventually, he convinced his brother to sell it to him, but he had to pay $300 for it and wait until haying season before receiving it. The poor brother figured he could mill himself enough food for many years in that time, and you can believe the mill didn't collect any dust during this period. Well, once haymaking season arrived, the rich brother got the mill, but the poor brother had been careful not to teach him how to stop it. It was evening by the time the rich brother got the mill home, and the next morning he asked his wife to go out and help spread the hay. Today he would prepare breakfast himself, he said. As breakfast time approached, he sat the mill on the kitchen table. Mill herring and porridge, both quickly and well, commanded the man. And so the mill began grinding out herring and porridge. First, it filled up all the platters and the trays, and then it filled the kitchen floor. Well, the man fumbled and fiddled and tried to stop the mill, but no matter how he turned it or pushed it, the mill just kept on going. Before long, the porridge was so deep that the man was about to drown. He broke down the door into the living room, but that room soon filled with porridge and herring. With great difficulty, he managed to open the latch on the front door that was by now deep under this flood of porridge. And as soon as he got the door open, he ran out with the herring and porridge pouring into the yard and the farmland behind him. Well, his wife, who was out spreading hay, felt it was taking rather long for breakfast to be ready. My husband doesn't call us home soon. We should go home anyway, she said. He probably can't handle cooking the porridge, and I'll have to help him out. Well, they started making their way towards home, and just as they came up a ways over the hill, they were met with a flood of herring, porridge, and bread that splashed up onto them. Well, the rich brother was running before this flood, and he cried out, "If only you all had 100 stomachs each! Be careful that you don't drown in our breakfast." He rushed past them with the flood following close on his heels, and he continued on to where his brother lived. Well, he begged his brother in the name of God to immediately take the mill back. If it keeps milling for even an hour longer, the entire settlement will be destroyed by this flood of herring and porridge, he cried. However, the brother refused to take it back until the other brother paid him another $300. He had no choice but to pay, and so the poor brother now had money and the mill. Before long, he built himself a farm much fancier than where his brother lived, and he had the mill grind him so much gold that he had his entire farm plated in gold. Now, the farm lay close to the shore, and it glowed and sparkled far out over the sea, and everyone who sailed past had to go ashore and visit the rich man who lived on the golden farm. Everyone wanted to see this unusual mill. Stories of the mill had spread far and wide, and there wasn't a person who hadn't heard about it. Eventually, a skipper arrived who wanted to see the mill. He asked if it could mill salt. "Sure, it can mill salt," replied the man who owned it. Well, when the skipper heard that, he wanted nothing more than to own the mill, no matter the cost. If he had that mill, he thought to himself, he wouldn't have to sail these long voyages over dangerous waters to fetch shipments of salt. Initially, the man refused to sell the mill. However, the skipper begged and beseeched him until the man finally sold it to him for many, many thousands of dollars. Well, as soon as the skipper had the mill on his back, he left as quickly as he could. He was afraid the man might change his mind. He certainly didn't take any time to ask about how to stop the mill. He sailed off in his ship as fast as he could, and once he was a ways out to sea, he set the mill up and commanded it to mill salt both quickly and well. So the mill began grinding out salt so it sprayed everywhere. Once the skipper had filled his ship, he wanted to stop the mill. But no matter what he did or how he turned it or pushed it, the mill just kept on as fast as ever, and the mound of salt grew taller and taller until the ship sank. And so the mill sank to the bottom of the sea, and it sits there to this day grinding out salt. And that is why salt water is so salty, or rather why seawater is so salty, I should have said. This is a very common story throughout Scandinavia. You'll find it in Evelton Christensen's Danish tales. There's even evidence of it going back to the 10th century in Iceland. They have old poetic terms for the shore of the sea. The sand is called the flour bin of Hamlet. And this mill at the bottom of the sea is actually connected to the older Hamlet legends. And so with that, I hope you enjoyed the story.